What's up, world? As promised, we're delivering more content. Say what's up, Rich.
What's up, world?
So today, we're going to be discussing pay as it will affect you and your family. Right? So to start off with, right, we're going by on the assumption that you are broke. The reason that you're becoming a truck driver is to get your family out of whatever financial situation you're in. And therefore, we're going off of our basis of a company's paying for your CDL. Just take 35.
Yeah.
So on that, we're going to start out with the basics of how you get paid, of how the first 90 days are going to work out, right? So you start out with, while you're in training, you get a minimum payment if they even pay you. A lot of times it's added into like a bonus or like a per diem fund.
If it's a exterior school.
Yeah.
Now, if it's in-house training, that might be a little different.
Hold on. Here we go.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, if it's in-house training, could be different. But if it comes from some kind of recruiter and you are doing, or like a recruiting company, and then you're going to they have schools all over the country that they've... C1 is a good one. There's one that JB Hunt uses, but I can't remember what the name of it is. Anyway, we're off topic. Moving on. So then once you graduate, right, and you finally start moving towards the company, the first thing you'll do is, whether it's orientation or you get directly on a truck with a mentor, you have to be on a trainer's truck for a minimum of 2 weeks. Some companies go in upwards of 30 or 40,000 miles, which is about your first 90 days. So while you're on there, you get whatever their training pays. It's usually winds up being just a little under minimum wage for wherever you live. Right? Pretty close.
Yeah.
Pretty close to minimum wage.
Considering the amount of hours
you're putting in
a week.
Right. And then once you graduate, you get your first seat, you get your truck. You'll then go to mileage pay with a minimum guarantee. And usually that's just the average that most drivers will get. Or the average of their first year drivers, and that's what they've guaranteed everybody will get in their first however long. Our company, I think, is 60 days, right?
I don't remember. I just went over that, and I don't even remember because you and I are gonna do a little bit different. We're not gonna be getting that typical average. So.
Right, exactly. But the reason we brought all of this up is because this is what you need to budget for. Do not expect to be making 34, 38 cents a mile your first 60 days.
Yeah, no. Also, don't do what I did, which was quit my job with no type of savings or anything to bankroll anything. Because, yeah, they pay you a little bit, but if you don't have a little bit extra and you have billing obligations, you're gonna run into trouble.
It's actually a perfect segue, right? So that brings us to our next point. If you have billing obligations, right, take care of them. You should have an idea of how long the training is, how long you'll be on a mentor's truck, and what your first paycheck would look like, right? So you can call any of your creditors, any most of your billing companies and ask them to either put it on hold for 30 days or set up a lower payment plan so that you can pay it gradually and still catch up within the 90 days. That usually means you have to pay more than once a month, but anyway, our point is set up whatever you can before you leave, and don't just let it lapse and then try to make up for it later, because you're going to be hit with fees and fines and reconnection issues and all kinds of stuff.
Oh wait, I've had 2 of those
in the last 2 weeks, right? Or 3 weeks? Last 3 weeks, right?
Well, technically I had 3, but that was a fault of the.
Oh yeah, that
carrier.
was a system error.
But
also, all right. So when you first get onto the truck with your mentor, usually if you don't have your what's it called, your direct deposit set up. So what they will do is issue you a pay advance, right? So that way you have money for that first week that you're out with your mentor to pay for food, pay for drinks, and if you're taking a shower or whatever, depending on your mentor. But one thing to keep in mind, that pay advance then comes out of your first week's paycheck. So if you're expecting to get paid, say $500 that first week, but they gave you $350 for that pay advance, they may not label it as a pay advance. They may just say, we've issued you a PO, or here is your initial training pay, or whatever they call it. But I promise you, they will take it out. It has to be accounted for by taxes, and they're not going to pay you any more than they absolutely have to until you have proven yourself. So, given that same example, you get paid, say, $500 a week. They issue you a PO for $350. PO meaning purchase order. That then gets deducted from that first week's paycheck. So when you actually get your first week's paycheck, either on your data card, your direct deposit, or whatever, you're only going to have $150 in the bank, because the rest of that money is now cash that you should have cashed a check at one of the
truck
stops. Thank you. Holy cow.
Now, in my situation, they did it a little bit differently. They paid me a flat rate daily for my training, but they issued me that advance. But instead of it deducting from what they were paying me, they almost like a bonus, but not really a bonus. They gave me the money, and then they just added it. So I made X amount of dollars, and then since they already gave me that money, the advance, they just added that to my total on my check. So they didn't deduct it away from me, but they added it, so they taxed the full amount for that advance plus my flat rate that I made over the course of the first 3 days in my training.
Right. And so then that could also affect how much you take home.
Because it did. It taxed it higher because that other money was on there. So.
Right. Keep in mind that a lot of companies, specifically if they require specific, what are they called on your license?
Endorsement?
Endorsements. If they require specific endorsements, most companies will pay for that. So.
If it's a requirement.
If it's a requirement. So hazmat, TWIC card, doubles and triples, tanker, whatever it is. If they require it, most companies will reimburse you if you have to get it. Ours will actually reimburse us for our hazmat
the background
application.
check.
Yeah, so the background check and the So keep that in mind. Always keep all of your paperwork, and then you can send it in so you can get that.
Always.
Always.
Even when you're out here doing runs, keep your paperwork.
Keep all your paperwork, right?
Put it under your bed. Put it somewhere.
Put it in an envelope. We'll go over that in a different one.
Time, yeah.
Let's see. So they will also reimburse you for your normal operation stuff. Anything that has to do with the truck, they will pay for within a specific guideline of that company. So if you have to get windshield washer fluid, if you have to clean your truck, if you have to get wiper blades, oil is a big one. If you have to weigh your truck, right? Most companies after 35,000 or 40,000 pounds, you need to weigh your load just so you can adjust your tandems. If that load is required to be weighed, they will reimburse you for that weight ticket.
Yeah, you'll pay out of pocket.
Right.
At a scale, typically at a truck stop, and then you go in, you'll pay for it. You keep that receipt, and you transflow it in, or you fax it in, or however you're getting your paperwork to your company.
Right. Oh, also, with your initial setup of your truck, if you have to go and get the truck from anywhere, ask about truck recovery fees, because most companies will pay you if they do not have a truck on the yard and you have to take time out of your day to go and pick it up. They will give you an additional rate to go and pick it up for them, for you doing their job. Our company, they pay us a flat fee on top of any mileage that we do, both in the rental car and in the truck back. So keep that in mind. A lot of companies, your first few weeks will have you doing a bunch of short runs. Check and see what your company's policy is. If most companies, if it's less than 100 miles, 75 to 100 miles or so, that's considered a shuttle run. And most companies will pay you shuttle pay. So if you have, if your first 2 or 3 runs are within that realm, then you will get paid whatever that amount is for each of those runs. It's not fantastic pay, but it's a cool way to keep cash in your pocket your first 4 or 5 weeks. Hopefully this doesn't happen to you guys, but it's happened to me 3 times now. If you get broken down, or if you're stuck somewhere for more than, most places is 24 hours, you get layover pay or breakdown pay. Some places it's separate. Some places it's the same amount.
Nice.
I just had the truck in the shop for 10 days. So I had to stay in a hotel for 10 days. I paid for all of that out of my pocket, and they're reimbursing me on my next paycheck. So I could do that because I have built up that cushion. I have enough in savings where I could make that adjustment and not be behind on any of my bills.
Yeah, if you can afford it, we'll talk about this more in depth later on comfort type things. If you're at a yard, they'll put you up in a hotel room, but it might not be the nicest.
Right.
So we'll that'll be another topic.
Right.
We'll hit on, because we don't want to stray too far.
Right. Let's see. So your standard deductions. Most of your major companies will require you to have a escrow account, and most of them will also make you pay back a certain amount of the tuition back. Usually it's about 15 to 20% of whatever the total is.
As long as you work out whatever contract you may be signing.
Right. Whatever's on your contract.
Early,
you have to pay the entire.
you have to pay the full amount of whatever it costs to get your CDL, which can vary from school to school, from company to company, especially if it's in-house training.
But keep that in mind. And then on top of your standard deductions, you also have your benefits deductions. So health insurance, dental insurance, 401k, life insurance. If you get the lawyer network thing. Anyway, all your standard benefit deductions. Your first 90 days, right? If you're making that $500 minimum or $800 minimum, well, they'll be taking $100 to $180, depending on how many benefits and what all the company is structured like. They'll be taking that much out of your first paycheck. So even though you may have budgeted for your first $500 or first $700, if you signed up for all of those, you immediately cut your take-home pay by a third when you also calculate in taxes and your other deductions.
Now that's not to shy you away from those things, but that's just something to keep in mind. Like if you're setting yourself up on a strict budget and you're like, man, I'm barely gonna scrape by with my $500, you might not want to opt into too many of those things. You know, make sure you're budgeting, you're giving yourself enough room on your budget.
Right. So that's really the whole point in this, right? We assume that all of you are getting into trucking to help better your lives for you and your family, and with that should come making a budget weekly. And all we're trying to do here is help you out with anything with your budgeting, to help you when you get out here, you don't have big surprises like we did. You got anything else to add?
Not at the moment. Big part of this, have fun. You know, when you do get out here, you know, if you have your stuff, you know, it's a very serious job and it's very lucrative, you know, and all that. But if you're not out here enjoying yourself, you know, because this job isn't for everybody, you know, then if you're just out here doing that 9 to 5 grind, it's gonna get old. Like, that's my big thing. Is we're fortunate enough that, like we said in our last little video, we're brothers. We're out here, we're doing our job, we're working, and we're working hard. We've only been doing it for, you know, a day and a half, 2 days. We're working hard, but we're having fun doing it too.
Yeah.
And we're just going to try to give you guys knowledge along the way, like topics that we come up with, topics that you guys might suggest to us. You know, we'll look into it and cover it. You know, if there's a demand for it, we'll cover whatever you guys want.
Right.
Look at this guy splitting lanes. That'll be another thing. So the whole off-topic thing. Robert and I, when we get together, if we don't stay focused, we'll talk to you guys for hours. We will go on a tangent about the stupidest little things. So
like a motorcycle splitting lanes.
Like just now, it just happened.
Yeah. So anyway, our whole goal here with this video was to help you at least have an idea of what your first 90 days of pay looks like. And we start our 90 days at the time you start school, because most companies will pay you starting at that point. So keep that in mind. Get past the first 90 days. Yes, it sucks. Yes, it is difficult. Yes, you can make mistakes and forget to send in paperwork, or forget to, you know, finish up, get a bill signed or whatever, and then they have to go back and track everything down. But once you get used to your rhythm, once you get used to the company, you will start making money. I promise. I promise. I doubled my paycheck within 90 days. Doubled it consistently. So don't be afraid just to ask about anything that you have to be reimbursed about. What's the worst that they can say? No.
Yeah.
Don't be embarrassed, because this is your money, not theirs. Keep that in mind. You are the one working for this money. So I'm not saying be a jerk and say, well, I'm not doing something unless you're paying me. Don't be like that. But if you know that you're doing extra work, if you know that you are supposed to be paid something, do not let up. Call them 3 or 4 times in an hour if you have to and say, hey, I just wanted to remind you I'm supposed to be getting this shuttle pay. I'm supposed to be getting reimbursed for such and such.
Yeah. If you don't, like you said, if you don't stay on top of that, like if you go on a shuttle run and you don't notice that they didn't pay, or you notice they didn't pay you for that shuttle run, if you don't follow up on it, don't think that next week it's going to be there.
Right.
Because if you missed out on it and somebody else screwed up with paperwork, that's X amount of dollars for them that they don't have to pay somebody because you forgot to follow up on it.
Right.
So it's not money in your pocket, it's money that they keep.
Right. So you're the one working for this paycheck. You make sure that your paycheck is correct. And that also includes keeping track of your mileage. Keeping track of the mileage that they are sending to you. Not always the total miles that you drive. Because you get paid household good miles. Most, 90% of the companies, you get paid household good miles.
Tangent. Let's
right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Because it's already, we've been doing this, 20 minutes?
Yeah.
You guys will be bored of us.
Right. So, first 90 days, don't expect to make more than whatever that minimum payment is. Be prepared for any pay advances, any reimbursements, any obligations that the company requires to be taken out of your check. And be prepared for any deductions, specifically the ones that you sign up for, that will also be taken out of your check on your first week, if you sign up that first week. So just keep all of that in mind whenever you go to budget this. And as always, stay safe, stay fit. Talk to you later.